Hello guys, so today let's work on Leetcode 65, which can also be asked in Facebook interviews. So for this problem, we're gonna be given a string and return a boolean. So we return true if and only if the string is a valid number. So this question description is very complicated, so let's just try to summarize it so that we can simplify it a bit. So there are three concepts, like valid number, decimal number, and the integer. So we're gonna just analyze each of them one by one. So let me just write this down. So we have valid number and then decimal number and the integer. Okay, so what is a valid number? A valid number can be split up into the following components. It can be either a decimal number or an integer. So both can be valid numbers, and then it has an optional component by that for the valid number. So the e followed by an integer. So let's just put it in a quote. So for all the optional fields, we can have them in a quote. So you can have an optional e, and then with an integer, and the same for here, e with an integer. So let me just make it like this. So okay, so these are the two cases for a valid number. So it can be a decimal number, then with an optional e plus integer after that, or an integer with an optional e plus integer after that. So what is a decimal number? A decimal number can be the following. So it can have an optional sign. Okay, let's say it can have an optional sign, and then followed with one of the following format. So like either one or more digits followed by a dot. So okay, so it have digits with a dot and then a dot, or sign as an optional field with one or more digits followed by dot and followed by one or more digits. Okay, so this we can just put it like add another optional digits, so that which means we can have optional sign and then digits and dot and then optional digits. So this can be a decimal number. And then which third case is a dot followed by one or more digits. Okay, so then it can be also dot and then one or more digits. So this time the digits will be required. It can be optional sign with dot and digits. So these are the two cases for a decimal number. So an integer can be the following. So the sign with one or more digits. Okay, so integer is only one condition, which is with an optional sign and then one or more digits. Optional sign, one or more digits. Okay, now let's replace, like this is an integer, right? Let's just replace this with the integer here and the integer. And the decimal number, we have two possibilities for decimal numbers. So let's just replace each of them. So the decimal can be this, and this is the second decimal number. All right, so let me just remove these now. So basically, these are the three conditions for a valid number with an optional sign, and then digits, dot with optional digits, and then with optional e plus optional sign and digits. So, or optional sign with dot digits, e, optional sign and digits, and these are optional, and a sign with optional as optional, and then digits and the e sign digits with optional. Okay, so in this case, how are we gonna solve the problem is like, let's see. So we have four digits, sign, dot, and e. So we have four types of characters in the string. So which is a sign and the digits and the dot and e, right? So for sign, it's always, as we can see, it's always either in the beginning of the string or it's after e. So must be index 0, or after e. And for digits, let's see, digits come up behind the sign and digits come behind the dot and e. Okay, digits. Oh, okay. So it must contain digits, must exist. If you see like the digits is something like must exist to have the valid number, to have the number to be valid. Okay, so and must exist, and for dot, let's see what we have for dot. So only once. Okay, only once. We can only allow one dot, right? And dot only once. Yeah, and it can be after sign or after digits or after sign, not after e. Only once. No e before dots, right? So if you see like if there's no, we can have e before the dots, and for e, what we see is like only once. Same, like we only allow maximum one e in the string. And if there is an e, we must have a digits. Must have digits after that. Must have digits after e, right? And also, what's anything else? Let me see. E can be after digits, or digits is optional. Then after dot, e. Oh, must have digits before e. I think. Yeah. So if we don't have digits before e, then it's invalid. Must have digits after e and before e, both before and after, and before e. Okay. So let's actually split that. These are two, so that we don't forget. Must have the digits before e. So okay, so let's review. So for the sign, it must be in the index 0 or after e. And then we can have maximum 2 signs, right? We don't allow more than 2 signs. But yeah, I think that's a duplicate. So we only have maximum once of e. So if we have an e, then we allow another sign. So the 3 sign condition will be also be checked by e's, because if we have 3 signs, then which means we have which will be like the first sign and then 2 signs after 2 e's, but we only allow 1 e, so we don't need to check maximum 2 signs in the string, because it will be checked by the maximum ones of the e as well already. So I think these two are valid. Must after e, or must be index 0. And the digits, we must have digits exist in the string. Yeah, and the digits can be behind the sign dot, or digits can be behind the e, right? Because sign is optional here. Yeah, so digits must exist. And for dot, we only allow once. So yeah, we only allow one dot, and dot can be after digits or dot after sign, but there shouldn't be any e before the dot. Makes sense? So if there is an e, then we don't allow dots after e. And for e, we only maximum once, sorry. Maximum once, and the same for dot, maximum once. And then we must have digits after e. Yes, so for the e, we must have digits. So optional is a sign, and no dots before e, no dots after e. So it's already here. No e before dots, so it's the same condition as this one. So must have digits after e, and then must have digits before e. Yeah? So digits must exist before e, and the digits must exist after e. Okay, so let's start it. So let's say for char in S. So we're gonna look through. So if char, I think like in let's say, so science is plus and negative, right? So science equals plus or negative. So let's try to check science or not. If char in, sorry, typo here. If char in science, then what we need to do is like if the position, okay, I need the position as well. So let's just do index index char and then enumerate over the string. All right, if index is larger than 0 and the previous one is not. If it's larger than 0 and the previous one is not e, then we return an s. Index minus 1 is not e. Not in e, because e can be 2. Let me just put e equals, can be 2 possibilities, either e or e. Okay. Not in e, right? Then we return false. Otherwise, we just, in science, we just say, I think we can just continue. Yeah. So we just continue. So index is larger than, okay, so this condition is validated. So must be index 0 after e. Yeah. All right. So next, if char equal to dot, let's try to check dot. So for dot, it must exist once and no e before dots. Okay, so let's say, so now let's have dots equals to false. So if dot already exists, if already exists, let's make it, if dot already exists or no e before dots or e exists. Okay, so let's have e exist as well. So let's say has dot, make it more descriptive, and then has e. So initially we don't have any of them. If has dot or has e, no, we don't have e before the dot. If has dot or has e, then we return false. And otherwise, we just say has dot equal to true. Set it to true. All right. Now let's say if char in e. So now if we check if it's e or not. All right. So for e, what we say is a maximum once. Okay, so that's has, if has e, right, it will return false. Or must have digits after e and must have digits before e. Okay, so now or has digits or not has digit. False. And must have digits after e as well. So okay, so has digit. Let's just check false. And we need to check digits as well. So okay, if char is digit, is digit, then we just say has digit. True. All right, so let's review this a bit. So if char in science, if it's a sign, then if it's if the index is larger than 0 and then the previous one is not in e, then we return false. Makes sense. If it's a dot, if it already has dot, let me see. If it's a dot, if it already has dot, or no e before, or it has e, then we return false. If it already has dot, and then we just reset has dot to true. For char in e, if already has e, so for e, maximum once, if already has e, or must have digits after e and must have digits before e, not has digit, return false. Okay, now we need to set has e to true, equals to true. And and then like for digits, like must exist. So if not digits, so once we, and then like also like we must have digits after e, right? So we can just reset has digits to false. So that then, which means we must have digits after the e, and then like we can just, if not, has, oh, and just return has digits. Return has digit. So if we don't have digit, then the number must be invalid, right? So let's see how it goes. Okay. Oh, extra G. Okay, I see. So in this case, what we can do is we can just do if else, if else if if and else, let's return false. Let's see now. All right, yep, it works. So basically, for this algorithm, we need to just, for this question, what we need to do is like, to simplify the problem, we need to summarize all the, like all the different all the different definitions, like what is a valid number, what is decimal number, and what is integer, and summarize all the possibilities that can form a valid number. And then we summarize these, like for every types of the character, what's the conditions for it to be valid or invalid, right? And then we can just check the conditions for these characters. So yeah, so that's oh, okay. Time complexity wise, it's order of n because we just loop through the entire string, and the space is consistent, like constant. Sorry, like no extra space used here. So yeah, so this is the end of the question, and I'll see you guys in the next one.